Okay, good morning, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining the session. So we have 1 hour together. The topic is about defining a publication strategy, which journal you should maybe consider for your manuscript. So I see some of you already ask questions over the chat, so feel free to ask if you have any. Just feel free to ask any question on the chat. The recording will be shared with you as well as certificate. Okay, and also share the presentation as well. So I just have a few slides to go through, and then I'll show you how you can use several solutions to analyze the profile of several journals and to compare them. So let me start. Then the context, let me start with the context. Finding relevant journals is always a difficult task for researchers. Any researcher would have worked very hard to come up with a manuscript, and then the question comes, where shall I submit my paper? There are lots of tools available, lots of databases that you can use to identify relevant journals. But there are lots of differences in terms of reliability and relevance and the organization of data. And that's very important because you want, when you use any database, you want the data to be organized. Let's continue. So lots of journals claiming they're in open access, so lots of available journals for publication. And the importance of peer review as well. You want to publish in a journal where your manuscript has been evaluated by peers. That's very important. And problem of predatory reviews, problem of predatory journals. That's a big issue. Today, lots of more and more journals claiming and promising they publish your manuscript very quickly in exchange of some money, of course. And they obviously would place their own objectives ahead of your publication. So some solutions will use very quickly Web of Science. I'll show you how you can use Web of Science. Obviously, the focus will be on journal citation reports today, but I want to show you a few tips on how you can use Web of Science to identify quickly potential journals or journals that could be relevant for your manuscript. In your topic. Journal citation reports will be the main solution for today's session. So how we can discover and select the most appropriate journals. There are lots of metrics, data and citation metrics you can use to compare journals. I'll speak about that. That's very important that you use those citation metrics very carefully and wisely. Master journal list. Always a good start. It's always a good start to make sure that the journal is indexed and went through our selection process with a focus on peer review and many other aspects in the journal selection process. So you have the frequency of publication, the discipline, the indexing in the Web of Science, but also in other databases. The open access and the impact. And finally, there is also a quick solution that you can use that is available in EndNote Online, EndNote Desktop X9, EndNote Manuscript Matcher, that is also available in Master Journal List. So you just paste your title and abstract, and based on the keywords that you use, Manuscript Matcher would suggest journals. Okay. So let me start with one recommendation that we give at Clarivate Analytics is the how you should use the metrics. And obviously, any indicator, any metric should be used carefully, wisely. So that's a screenshot from our Insights help page, where we mentioned that research evaluation is increasingly being conducted by using bibliometric data or methodology. All right. Quick recommendations here. You need to know about how the indicator is calculated, what is the indicator measuring, and what's the value and the role in the process of research performance. And in the help, actually, in journal citation reports, you will see each and every indicator would have a definition, and we would give some recommendation on how it should be used. Okay, so let's start with JCR, Journal Citation Reports. So Journal Citation Reports is the most powerful product in terms of journal intelligence. You would have thousands of journals with their profiles and metrics and historical data and lots of different indicators that help you to judge or to have an idea of a journal profile. It provides researchers with a list to discover the most appropriate journals to read and also to publish. So journal citation reports is used in two main cases. Obviously by librarians. Librarians, they want to subscribe to the most impactful journals, the most relevant journals. And for researchers or authors to publish in the most impactful, most relevant journals. So you have in journal citation reports, as you know, Clarivate Analytics is not a publisher. We don't publish journals. So it's an unbiased data, publisher independent. You would have big, small, medium-sized publishers available in journal citation reports. All right, so tens of thousands of journal profile pages. And we obviously use the citation, that's why we call it journal citation reports. We use the citations links to calculate those metrics. So it's obviously subscription-based, so it's not a free tool. In your institution, you have access to journal citation reports. If you don't know how to access it, it's always good to ask your librarian. They would know how to guide you. All right. Okay, so the sources of journal impact factor. Last time we've seen during the Web of Science session, you have several collections. The collection that we take into account to calculate the journal impact factor is the Web of Science core collection, but not all the citation indices. We take only the journals that are indexed in science and social sciences. Okay, and with these two indices, we calculate and we publish the journal citation reports that are published once a year. They're published towards end of June, early July. So very soon, the new edition of journal citation reports, the 2019 edition, will be published. So 2019 edition is published in 2020. The 2020 edition will be published in 2021 and so on. Okay. So until now, the latest edition is the 2018 edition that was published in end of June 2019, last year. And that's going to be updated in a few weeks. There is no impact factor for arts and humanities journals. There is no impact factor for journals indexed in Emerging Source Citation Index. There is no impact factor for conference proceedings and for books. So how do we calculate the impact factor? Lots of people focus on the impact factor. The impact factor is no more than the frequency with which the average article in a journal has been cited in a particular year. So the way we calculate that, it's a basic average formula. The way we calculate it for the impact factor in 2018. For a specific journal, again, we call it the journal impact factor. So if it's an indicator for a specific journal, we take all the papers published in 2016 and 2017, and we look how many times they've been cited in 2018 in average. All right, so we divide the number of citations by number of what we call citable items, basically articles and reviews. All right. So for the impact factor in 2018, that's an average value of citations for papers published in 2016 and 17. Okay. All right. Something important you can use in the journal citation reports is the categories and the quartiles. So obviously the impact factor varies and depends on the journal itself, but also the category. So here I show you some examples. Here I show you the top 5 journals. I think this is in medicine. So you have Nature Medicine, Science, Translational Medicine, and so on. So if you see the first journal has an impact factor of 30.357. All right. and we call that a Q1 journal. So basically in that category, the top 25% of that category in terms of number of journals, we will call them Q1. If you look at different fields, so here marine engineering, the impact factor has a different scale, as you can see, 1.7, 1.488, 1.267, and so on. Okay, but these two journals that have different impact factor, we call them Q1, all right, because they're in the top 25% of the category. So the way we do it, we classify the journals by categories. So we have 234 categories, and we would rank the journals by ascending impact factor, so the highest impact factor in the top, and we would basically divide the category in 4 quartiles. So the top 25%, so let's say you have 100 journals, the top 25, we would call them Q1, and then Q2, Q3, and Q4. So I'll show you that in a moment in journal citation report. So if you have 100 journals, the top 25, okay, the top 25%, so 25 journals by impact factor, we would call them Q1. So that's an important indicator, because someone publishing in a journal could say, okay, I publish in a journal that has an impact factor of 4. That doesn't really make sense if you don't specify the field and the year, right? But if I say I publish in a Q1 journal, everyone would understand that Q1 is actually a journal that is in the top 25% in its category for a specific year. Okay, so Q1, Q2, that's a relative indicator, rather than the impact factor is an absolute number, which wouldn't make sense if you don't specify the year and the category. All right, so what I'm saying here is that a journal can have multiple subject areas and then, of course, different quartiles. So I just took one example, a journal called Plant Foods for Human Nutrition. So obviously in the name, we can see that it's talking about different topic, different categories. So this journal is classified in several categories. Obviously, plant sciences, it has one impact factor, but because it's in different categories that has different number of journals, so if you have a look at different years, different categories, so it's in plant sciences, it's publishing papers in applied chemistry, it's publishing papers in food science and technology, and also in nutrition and dietetics. If you look at different years, for example, in 2016, this journal was ranked 58 out of 212 journals in plant sciences. So this journal is Q2, right? Is a Q2 journal in plant sciences because it's in the second 25%. So 25% of 212, that's 53. So it's in the second 53. So from 1 to 53, that's Q1, 54 to 106, Q2, and so on. Okay, so applied chemistry here, you have different number of journals, 72. Okay, so it's ranked 23rd out of 72. In food science and technology, there are 130 journals that have an impact factor, and it's ranked 31st. So that's Q1. And in nutrition, it's Q3 because it's ranked 44 out of 81. Okay. So Web of Science, what I wanted to show you is that in Web of Science, you can have some ideas already about, yeah, so one way of finding, okay, thank you, Tatiana, saying that the sound is perfect now. Okay. One way of finding relevant journals would be, for example, you could start with a search on your specific topic. So for example, if I search on coronavirus or COVID-19, okay. All right, so I could search on this specific topic. And what I could do is I could analyze those 24,000 papers and I could go into source titles. So first of all, I could filter on articles. I want to know where the articles have been published. So let me do an analysis. Okay, so 15,000 articles over time. And if I look at source titles very quickly, I would have a list of 100 journals, 100 source titles, 100 journals ranked by number of papers that are indexed. Okay, so that's one way of very quickly finding journals that published already papers in that particular topic. So that's one way of doing it. All right. Second way is obviously journal citation reports. So I went into journal citation reports here from the Web of Science. You access Web of Science and should have access to the journal citation reports. Okay, and then here, either you know already the name of the journal that you want to analyze in journal citation reports profile. Okay, so I could do that. Let's say in science. Okay, no one knows the journal science. I could go into science, and then journal citation reports is opening the profile of the journal. So it's a journal that is publishing in English, in multidisciplinary sciences, that's the category, and it's publishing 51 issues per year. So issue per week. Okay, so here I have the latest impact factor. As I said, 2018, that's going to be updated very soon with the 2019 impact factor. You see 41, so what does that say? It says that in average, papers published in 2016 and 2017 were cited around, in average, 41 times in 2018. So that's the trend. So the purple bar graph, that's the trend of the impact factor. So from 33 in 2014 to 41 in 2018. So that's the left axis. And then you have the right axis, which is basically the percentile rank in the category. So science was in the 97 percentile rank since 2014. So you could go into all years if you want. Here is the formula. You remember, we divide the number of citations by number of citable items. So it published 1,574 articles and reviews in 2 years that accumulated 64,000 citations. Something interesting that you should maybe spend some time on when you analyze the citation distribution is when you look at science, you have lots of papers, so 268 articles plus 46 reviews plus 9 other types of documents that have been cited more than 50 times. On the other end, you have 7 articles and 407 other types of documents, so around 414, 414 documents that have been cited only one time. So basically those papers, they push the average, the impact factor up. So in an ideal world, the average impact factor 41 is here. In an ideal world, you would have lots of papers being cited around the average, right? So you'd have a normal distribution, which is not the case for journals. So you have the citation distribution is basically skewed, right? So lots of papers pushing the average up and lots of papers being almost not cited. Okay, if you go back, if you go down here, the rank, you would have the rank of science over time. So this is where I took my screenshot for the other journals. So that's the rank, the quartile, and the journal impact factor percentile. Okay, 2 out of 69. That's the 97th percentile. So that's it. That's if you want, or if you know already the name of the journal and you want to analyze the profile of the journal. Okay, so we're talking about profile. So if you don't know the profile, and a good way to start would be you want to browse by category. So category here, you have 234 categories, and in the journal citation reports here, so you see economics is the category that has the highest number of journals with impact factor 363. Then comes mathematics and so on. I could start with pharmacology. Let's have a look at pharmacology. 267. 267 here, I have a quick list of all the journals that have been classified as pharmacology and pharmacy. So that's one ranking based on the impact factor. Okay, so Nature reviews drug discovery. The impact factor is 57. Again, I can click on the formula or on the number to see the formula. I see the impact factor. I can do a rank with impact factor without journal self-citations, the 5-year impact factor, and so on. So 5-year impact factor is the same formula, but not on 2 years, but we take into account 5 years, right? Immediacy index also is interesting. So I could sort on immediacy index. So here I see statistically this journal is less influential as a journal as this one, if we take the past 3 years. But if I look at the immediacy index takes into account the citations received in a year for the papers published in the same year. So papers published in 2018 have been cited in average 5 times in 2018. And that's an interesting indicator because it tells you how fast basically papers are cited. So if I show you the help, it's always good to have a look at the help section here. And if I show you here, we have a glossary for each and every indicator. So if you look at I for immediacy index here, immediacy index is the average number of times an article is cited in the year it is published. That indicates how quickly articles in a journal are cited because we look at the edition year. So immediacy index here 5.37 and 5. So that's the number of citations, 172, received by papers published in 2019. So again, those indicators, they all evaluate and measure different aspects of a specific journal. You can compare them if you want. Let's say I want to compare these 5 journals. Okay, so I should mention I want to look at the trends, and I want to look at the trends of the past 5 years, and which indicator I want to use in my comparison. I want to look at the impact factor. Okay, so here I can see the trends of the impact factor over time. All right, so it looks like the green has gained in terms of average influence over time. It used to be the purple, the number 1, right? And now the purple one, which is annual review of pharmacology and toxicology, is number 3, right behind the green one and the blue one. Okay, so that's an interesting analysis you can do. All right, also something that I recommend you do is basically I've seen some cases. I'll show you 2 cases raised by researchers that mentioned that to me. Sometimes you would have journals claiming lots of different things on their journals, on their websites, sorry. For example, if you look at this one, European Journal, it's called European Journal of Engineering Research and Science. Okay, that has been raised by faculty member, and he said, can we check if this journal is indexed and if the impact factor is right? So here you see ISSN, all right, and it says that the impact factor is 1.78 and is publishing monthly and so on. One way of doing it, verifying very quickly if it's true, just paste the ISSN and it says no results found, meaning that this journal, as per climate analytics, didn't get an impact factor. So that's one way of very quickly checking what the journal is saying, if it's true or not. We also have the master journal list. I mentioned that in the presentation. Master journal list, as you can see here, I can search by name or ISSN. So if I type in the ISSN again, I want to check if this journal is indexed or not, if it's indexed, where it's indexed. So you see here, found 0 results. So obviously, it can be indexed without having an impact factor. You remember, because it can be an arts and humanities journal, it can be an emerging source citation index journal, but in this case, it's not even indexed. So if it's not indexed, obviously cannot have an impact factor. Sometimes it's a little bit tricky on what the journals are claiming. If you look at this journal, it's called Advances in Biosciences and Biotechnology. And they use something like a Google-based impact factor, right, 0.98. If you look at here at the indexing, it says that there are 2,642 citations for articles published in the journal ABB as of June 2019. So, and they even mention a screenshot, which is a screenshot from Web of Science. That's a bit tricky. Why? Because if I go to the ISSN portal and I search for the ISSN of this journal, okay, so we could think that based on this, the indexing, it is indexed in Web of Science. So one way again to check if this is true, I could go here and say search for this ISSN, right? And here it says that it didn't find this journal. So how do we explain that they mentioned that there is a screenshot? So basically what they do here, they say that this journal has been cited, or the papers published in this journal have been cited by other papers published in index journals. So of course, in Web of Science, if you look at this paper, for example, all right, which is published in Global Health Action, which is an index journal, these people, they have cited other papers, 19 in this case. Some of these 19 can come from different sources, not necessarily from index journals. So and that's the case here. You see, these are basically papers that are not indexed because in the Web of Science, because they are not published in index journals. What they've done is basically they went into cited reference search, all right, and I think they just put the name of their journal. If I just put the name of the journal, that would work better. Yeah, so if you have a look at this, okay, so if you look at these, so obviously these journals, different papers published in these journals, when you accumulate that, then you get citations, okay? All right. Yeah, and there's one last thing that I wanted to show you, which is the match manuscript. So in master journal list, let's go back to my initial search, and I'll just imagine that we have a paper that is ready for publication and we have the manuscript, all right? Let's just imagine that this is my paper, okay? So I just take this as a title. In master journal list, I can put my title here, all right? And my abstract, okay? And my abstract. And I basically ask master journalist to search in the Web of Science core collection if there would be any journals that could match my manuscript, okay? So I just say find journals, okay? And here it found 42 journals. So this one has the highest match score based on the keywords that I've used that are also commonly used in this journal. Then you have environmental research, PJ, mathematical biosciences, and it always showing me the top keywords. All right. So I could go into this one, view profile page. So to view a profile page, you would need to have an account. So here I'm already signed in. It's a free account. And here I have some visibility about the first year of publication, the frequency of publication, the links to the editorial board, the Web of Science coverage, and some journal metrics, as you can see, the latest impact factor, and so on. All right. Okay, there's one last functionality that I want to show you, which is available in EndNote Online. In EndNote Online, so I'm just opening EndNote Online, which is again free to use. So Manuscript Match is also available here in EndNote Online, and same again, type in your title and abstract. So I just pasted the title already, the abstract already. And I click on Find Journals. All right, so it's gonna suggest some journals with the latest impact factor, the match score. We find basically the same list. All right, so here we retrieve the list, but here we see the categories, the rank, the quartile, and something important as well to avoid to submit your manuscript into a fake website or predatory journal. I mean, it's relatively easy to create a website and call it influencer, whatever. Here you have the official page of the journal. Okay. All right, so there are some questions in the chat. Someone is saying, how can we search for journals that are indexed in Thomson Reuters? Journal index with impact factor. So first of all, it's called Clarivate Analytics, as you can see, not Thomson Reuters anymore. It used to be Thomson Reuters when those products were part of Thomson Reuters Group. But when you search in journal citation reports, by default, you search in Web of Science, meaning indexed with impact factor. So journal citation reports is the database where you have all the index journals with impact factor. Something that I didn't mention, but the impact metrics or the impact information is also available in the Web of Science. So when you have a subscription to journal citation reports, any paper here, if you click on View Journal Impact, you would have the latest impact factor, and again, the category and the rank, as well as the quartile. So, a journal can be indexed in the Web of Science without having an impact factor. That's what we mentioned when we spoke about arts and humanities journals or emerging source citation index. All right, so those journals that are indexed in arts, humanities, or conference proceedings and books or emerging source citation index, there is no impact factor for conferences or books. All right, so that's a good question. I mean, you can have a journal in Web of Science without having an impact factor. Okay, I'm not sure if there are any other questions because I've went through everything I wanted to show you. Obviously, I mean, I'm not going through all the indicators on metrics that are available in journal citation reports. In mathematics here, the Acta Numerica, which has the highest impact factor. Here, as you can see, 7.4. Okay, so if I click on the profile or the name of the journal to have visibility on the profile, you would see that actually this journal is publishing once a year. All right, so once a year, the frequency is quite interesting as an indicator because they published 12 papers in 2 years. So they basically need only 6 papers a year to exist as a journal. And that's enough to have or to give the highest average in that field, 7.4. Okay, so 89 citations received by 12 papers. That gives an impact factor of 7.4. And this journal is actually quite recent. It's been it received the first impact factor in 2014, and since then it's number 1. All right. Okay, so yeah, that's the official page of the journal that I clicked on. So you can register, create an account, okay, and submit your manuscript. Okay, so there is a comment from Amina, which says, yeah, for the you basically would need to access the service from your library search. So it seems you have a library search area, and you need to be authenticated via SSO if you are accessing remotely. So I believe most of us are working from home these days. So if you access remotely, you go into your library and you need to access the service remotely via SSO authentication. Yeah, so there's a question from Tatiana. The question says, what about the lag for citations? So indeed, if you look at the citations, it always takes time, right? It takes time. You publish a paper today in June, people are gonna maybe start reading your paper, and by the time they write another paper and cite your paper, and then we capture a citation, there is always a lag. So do you have some indicators? That's why some people use the 5-year impact factor, because you would look at a bigger period rather than just 2 years, 2 years of data. Okay, so you could use the 5-year impact factor to have an average on a longer period. Thank you, Anne. She's saying that the sound has been perfect for her. So I don't know, is it maybe on the participant side that sometimes they struggle with the sound? So thank you for your comment. Tatiana is saying that if the journal is published in December 2018, and those papers will be cited only next year. So yeah, that's what we do. So the papers published in 2018 will be taken into account in the 2019 and 2020 impact factor that will be calculated in 2020 and 2021. So again, we're in June 2020. The impact factor 2019 will take into account the papers published in 2017 and 18, and we would look at, in average, how many times they've been cited in 2019. All right, so if I go back to the formula here, where is it? Yeah, here. So the impact factor of 2019 will take into account, we would look at number of articles and reviews published in 2017 and 18, and we would look at how many times they've been cited in total in 2019, all right? And we would publish the 2019 impact factor in 2020. Yeah, so there's a question from Izan who says, can we email you if there are any questions? Yeah, sure. Feel free to contact me. I'll just put my email address in the chat, but you should receive it when I will share the presentation. So Tatiana is saying again, what citations are counted for the same year, especially for the journals published once a year? The impact factor formula is the same, whatever the frequency. So if I show you Acta Numerica, the way we calculated the impact factor is very simple. The impact factor in 2018, we look at how many papers were published in 2016 and 2017. Okay, 12 papers. We look how many times they've been cited, but in 2018. So the papers published in 2016 and 2017, we look how many times they've been cited in 2018. So basically 2 years or 1 year later. For 2016, it's going to be 2 years later, how many times they've been cited. And in 2017, how many times they've been cited 1 year later. All right. And that gives you the impact factor. I think your question goes back to maybe the immediacy index. For the immediacy index, you're right. We would look at how many times in 2018, the papers published in 2018 have been cited. So there were 5 papers published in 2018 in this particular journal that is publishing once a year. But when do we calculate these 4 citations? We do that in 2019 when we published the 2018 metrics, the 2018 edition of Journal Citation Reports. So we wait for 2018 to be completed, and in 2019, so it takes around 3 to 4 months to calculate all the metrics as per the previous years. So we wait for the 2018 year to be complete. Okay, there is a question from Linda, who says, if I find an error in any record or profile, how can I update this? Again, it's very simple. If you go into Web of Science, that would be a good start. Let's say this record has some mistakes on the name or on the data or whatever. You would go here, suggest a correction. All right. So suggest a correction, and it's opening a form that is public. Actually, you could go directly into support.clarivate.com, support.clarivate.com, and then I just pasted the link in the chat, and then here we would pull up the data of that particular paper. So I'm connected, so here's my name and email address. So that's the data of the paper. And okay, what do you want to change? Is this the address, the record, the institution, or missing issue, whatever? Okay. On the profile, if I look into the profile of this person, for example, Peter here, I can also, so if I'm this person, I can claim this record, all right? Or I can correct the record. Okay. Yeah, so there's a question that says, do you mean the total number of publications for the same journal? Yes, exactly. So here, the way we calculate the impact factor, for example, Annals of Mathematics, okay, I think is publishing not once per year, but maybe once a quarter, I think. Let's have a look. Once every 2 months, 6 issues per year. So this journal has an impact factor of 4.165. The way we calculate that, we take the number of citable items, articles, and reviews published in 2016 and 2017. So 79, all right? Those papers, this journal, how many times it was cited in 2018. So we wait for the year for 2017 to be complete. We look in 2018, all right? And we publish that in 2019. So Tatiana says, is it always 2 years lag for citation? No, it's not always 2 years. It depends on the indicator you look at. 5-year impact factor would look at 5 years of data. The impact factor would look at 2 years of data. Images index would look at 1 year of data. So again, let me put that formula. I think it will make sense. This impact factor 2018, the way it's calculated, we take one specific journal. We look at number of papers published in 2016 and 2017. And we look how many times these papers were cited in 2018. When do we do that calculation? We do it in 2019, all right? We wait for 2018 to be complete, and we say paper A that was published in 2016 was cited 5 times in 2018. When do we do that? We do that in 2019, and that's when we published the impact factor of 2018. So this year, very soon, in the coming weeks, we're going to publish the impact factor, the edition of 2019, and we do that in 2020, all right? So here you see the latest edition year is 2018. The 2019 will appear in 2020, so we've been calculating all these metrics in 2020 as of 2019, when 2019 was complete. Okay. Okay, is there any other questions or comments? So yeah, there's a question which says, is the session recorded? Yes, it is recorded, and I will share with you the link to the recording. Yeah, you'll receive all the information, and if you have any specific or particular question, feel free to contact me, and I'll you just give me some time and I'll get back to you. All right. Okay, thank you very much. Take care and all the best.